Hello, my name is Catherine Franklin, and I want to welcome you to part two, Women and Wealth. Um, I today happens to be my birthday, and I turned 45. I turned 45. I know. It's it's um it's an exciting time in my life, and it's interesting how 40, there's something about 40 that still feels like, yeah, I just passed 30. But 45, I think, feels to me like it's a mark, like it's the beginning of true maturity. I don't know. But anyway, so I hope you're having a good day. And I am excited to come back and have this conversation about women and wealth. So let me first begin by sharing about my background and why qualifies me to have this conversation. I have spent the last 15 years in private equity, working in private equity, and I've been a CPA for 20 years. The last 15 years I spent working in private equity in the family wealth management space. And in that space, while yes, I come into this space as a tax expert, I got to watch wealth grown. I got to watch businesses be started. I got to see businesses grow, businesses be sold, bought. I saw wealth grow, but I also in that process, I also saw wealth mismanagement, and I also saw wealth dwindle. So I got to see a spectrum of what can happen with money and how money can grow tremendously. But I also saw how money can be squandered. So it's from that framework that I am coming into this conversation. Obviously, being a woman, obviously being 45 years old, and being in a space where I'm thinking about my own future, but also thinking about the future of my children, considering that I now have a almost 11-year-old who now has maybe 7 years to college. And so I'm in that space where that conversation about wealth is paramount. And so that is part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation. Now, um, last time we had a conversation on the barriers to wealth. And just to touch a little bit on what we spoke about, we talked about what is wealth, we defined wealth. We talked about that wealth, we defined a household or an individual's net worth, which consists of assets, property, businesses, etc., minus any liabilities or minus debts. We also defined money consciousness and wealth consciousness. And we said that money consciousness is becoming a person who is conscious about the financial implications of inherent in everyday decisions, everyday activities. We also defined wealth consciousness, and we defined wealth consciousness as a person who has a focus on building wealth. And I told you that, excuse me, hold on. It was important for women to become both money conscious and wealth conscious because, one, we are living longer, and I talked about how a lot of women, majority of women, even though they're married and happily married, will probably find themselves in a space where they have some years when they no longer have a husband because he passed away. And so they may have 5, 10, 15 years of living beyond their husbands. We talked one of the other reasons was divorce, separation, and single parenthood. Those are realities that we are living with today. And then in terms of women are also delaying marriage, and sometimes they're just simply not getting married. So that woman is not going to have a knight in shining armor who is going to come along and save her financially. She's going to have to save herself. Then obviously, as I said, then there's prenuptials. So you could be even marrying into wealth, but that does not guarantee that you will, that does not guarantee that you will be able to share in that wealth, especially if there's a prenuptial agreement. So those and many other reasons are some of the reasons I said we need to um, be conscious about wealth, and we need to be conscious about money. Now, I also wanted to give a caveat that the intention of this conversation is not to create women that are so independent that have no use for men, and men are no longer useless because, we are now wealthy women. Okay. That is not my intention at all. And my intention is for us women to have a healthy perspective on wealth. So today, my intention is not to lecture. What I want to do is to share knowledge, right? Is to speak as if I'm speaking to a girlfriend about this topic. Now, so let's now move on to. So last time we talked about barriers, and some of the barriers we mentioned were the wage gap. We talked about divorce, separation, and how lack of pursuit many times leaves women underserved or with less wealth than their counterparts. We talked about lack of knowledge. We also talked about inequalities in families, in nucleus families. And the other thing is we talked about lacking the courage to make big financial decisions. For example, owning a home. Yet here in the United States, many times home ownership is a big part of the middle class building wealth. It's a significant part of wealth building for middle class people in general. We talked about lack of, business ownership because, again, business ownership is significant in how wealth is built. The last thing we talked about was societal myths and stereotypes, and this idea that women cannot be financially astute. Women are spendthrifts. And so that ends up creating an environment or a perception, even of us women, that we don't need to be financially astute because all we need is a knight in shining armor. But yet, there are lots of women who are not going to have that security from a man as far as finances are concerned. So today, I wanted us to move forward and now talk about how we can develop a healthy perspective and how we can build wealth as women. Let me pull up my notes. So the first thing that, and let me kind of get comfortable here a little bit. So the first thing that I really want to emphasize is that sometimes we have a tendency to put money on a pedestal. We think of money as this unattainable thing. It's so big, it's so significant, it's just unattainable. But money is really just a medium of exchange. It's a tool. It allows us to exchange goods and services. That's it. Pedestal to think it is unattainable, right? Money is a byproduct of production. So bottom line, if we're going to make, and how do we produce? We either produce goods and services or we exchange money for labor, right? So when you have a job, you bring in your technical skills and you exchange those technical skills or whatever skills you have, technical or otherwise, and you exchange that for a salary, for a wage. And on the other hand, if you're an entrepreneur, you're in business, you exchange goods and services in exchange of money. You provide goods, you provide services, and you get money in return. So at the end of the day, it's a medium of exchange, and it's a byproduct of production. We're going to have more production, either more production or higher valued production. Okay, so let's take note of that. So money is a tool, but because it's a tool, money, the right amount of money will give you a level of freedom. And Ecclesiastes says that, there's in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says, money answereth all things. Money answers all things. Because at the end of the day, other than breathing, literally we need money for just about anything. This very broadcast would not happen without money. I need lighting, I have a computer, I have this office space. So at the end of the day, you need money to be able to move around the world. Just about to do anything, you kind of need money. So, and because money answereth all things, even women we need money. We use it all the time, and we need to become astute about money, because we cannot circumvent this need or use of money. Right now, how can we build wealth? What are the ways a woman can build wealth? There's 3 ways a woman can build wealth. You can earn money and grow it into wealth. You can inherit it, or you can marry it. Okay, let's talk about marrying money. I probably, with the women's liberation and the feminist movement, I think the ideology of marrying into money has kind of been given has become, we kind of snare at it a little bit. We don't like the concept or the idea. And so I think in modern times, there's a little, it's frowned upon, the idea that a woman wants to marry into wealth. But this is the thing. It is a viable option. And at 45, I can say that. Maybe at 35, I would have been like, really? But at 45, I would say it is a viable option. And this is the thing. As a woman, if that is the route you want to take, I suggest you study it, because this is the thing. Women who marry into wealth, the question is, what kind of woman do you need to become to be able to attract the kind of man who has that kind of wealth? Case in point, Jeff Bezos, who got divorced and turned around and is dating another woman. I don't, her name escapes me. But my point is, what does it take to be that kind of woman who can attract that kind of wealth? And that thing, you need to study it. If you're a woman who chooses that route, you need to study it and you need to become it. Okay. And because these things just don't happen. Okay. These things just don't happen. You might have to live in the gym. Think about Queen Esther. Queen Esther married into wealth. So whether it means being in the spa for a year or being at the gym for 2 hours a day, whatever it takes, it's a process. And I think the idea is to be intentional about it, right? Now, the other option is to inherit it, right? The thing I want to say about inheritance is there are 2 things that are important to women about inheritance. One, I think it's so important for us to advocate for equality in inheritance. Now, over time, you are now seeing even laws like in Kenya, laws that are now requiring that you cannot, you need that a parent who is leaving wealth to their children, that they have to consider their daughters as well. And the thing is, far too often in inheritance, even though the law supports women having an inheritance from fathers, far too often that inheritance is not equal. Far too often boys get prioritized over girls in the name of they will be providers. And so one of the things that I think we need to be conscious about as women, and as women who are growing, some, you might be listening to me and you have older daughters, you have older sons. And so you are also in that space of where you will be in charge of sharing wealth to your next generation. I think it's really important for us women to shift that mindset, because the saddest thing is that far too often the gender that is against, that participates in preventing equality in inheritance, women are right there, a part of it. Mothers are right there, encouraging or participating in the unequal sharing of wealth to their children. So I think we need to become better about it. I think as a daughter, you need to show financial awareness and consciousness and astuteness to the parents, so that you don't get sidelined. So you need to show interest. If there's businesses, show interest in the business, educate yourself, prove yourself worthy of the position of the next CEO of the business that's been left, so that you don't end up in a situation where the default is the brothers ending up with those positions. So you need to show interest. But the other thing is, you also need, it's important for you to be financially astute, because I have seen wealth inherited in the millions and then squandered. You see, one of the things that I learned in my time in private equity is that any amount of wealth can get finished. This idea that we don't think money can get finished, it can. Okay, I have seen millions squandered in 2-3 years. So these things can happen. You need to educate yourself. And most important principle about inheritance is conservation. If you inherit wealth, then you have a responsibility as a woman to conserve that wealth so that it lasts your lifetime, but even better, that it gets passed on to the next generation. It gets passed on to your children and your children's children. So conservation is a really critical principle, and it's a perspective. So if you get the benefit, the privilege of inheriting wealth, grow that wealth and pass it on to the next generation. Don't squander it or let your children squander it, because I have seen that too. So now let's look at, obviously, most of us are neither going to inherit it nor marry it. So the only way we're going to make wealth is we're going to earn money and we're going to grow wealth. And whether that money is we earned it or our spouses earned it, it's family money, first generation money that we are going to grow. Now, there's only one wealth formula, okay? There's only one wealth formula. There's no two ways, besides, of course, marrying or inheriting wealth. The only other wealth formula there is income minus expenses leaves you with discretionary income. That discretionary income is what has potential to be wealth. So you have your income, however it comes, whether it is you're earning it, you have a job, you have a business, your husband's bringing it home, however the case may be, minus your living expenses. What is left is discretionary income. That discretionary income is what you can be used to blow. And there's nothing wrong with having fun. You can have some fun with it. But most important is that you take some of that discretionary income and you put it towards the future, that you put it towards growth. Because we need to make the biggest challenge for us to grow wealth is not managing and growing wealth. So if all we do is focus on earning money and we don't focus on managing money and growing money, then we are going to be handicapped in building wealth. Okay, so it's important for us to be intentional and conscious about creating discretionary income and then channeling that discretionary income towards growth, right? Now, one of the ways we do that is really having a budget or a spending plan, because a spending plan basically says this is what I'm going to do with the money that I earn, with the money that's earned in our household. This is what we're going to do, which is also called a budget. And sometimes people feel budgets are so restrictive, but fine, don't call it budget, call it a spending plan, but give your money a name. Okay, tell your money what it's going to do. Tell it you're going to pay rent, you're going to pay a mortgage, you're going to go towards purchasing this or that, but name some of your money investments and set aside and build the discipline of setting aside money continuously that goes into savings, but not just savings, but growth. Goes into investing. What is the difference between saving and investing? Saving is the process of setting money aside, but many times savings end up in a bank account earning the minimum interest. And it doesn't matter which bank account in the world, you're still going to get minimum interest, because for the most part, you're going to be getting either at the most a little over inflation, and many times the interest rate, the savings interest rate is going under inflation. So while yes, savings is the step one, step number two is investing that money and growing that money. Now, our ability to grow wealth is determined first by our perspective on money. And so money, our beliefs about money determine what we do with money. So we can talk all day that you need to have a spending plan, but until your beliefs align with behavior that leads you to building wealth, then you're not going to build wealth. What are your belief systems? And those belief systems about money really stem from our childhood and stem from a long time ago, many times from our childhood. I know for myself, I was the fifth born in a family of six, had older brothers and sisters, and I had a doting father and mother. So as a teenager, my perspective on wealth or on money was for spending. And because I had so many people to ask for money, so between those sisters, there was brothers-in-laws. So basically, I rotated through the many people in my life, and basically at every junction, got a little bit of money, and all of it was for spending, right? I did not grow up with the perspective of money for savings. Yet I do remember my youngest brother having a savings account. So I'm not exactly sure why that concept was not taught to me, but this is my point. So that was my perspective. That perspective came to a head when I was in college, and my perspective was money was to be spent, transferred over to credit cards, because when you go to college, they hand out those credit cards like it's water, right? So I got handed out a couple of credit cards and I swiped them all over town. And until I got the call from the bill collector, that's when I clued in, oh, I need to change my perspective on money. And so, but there are many women who are growing up who are in your 20s and 30s and 40s, and your perspective on money is still to be spent. So why do you believe about what you believe about money? And some of it is if there was scarcity when growing up, then now you have a little bit of money and hey, I need, and so that becomes your focus, because now that you have some money, you can spend it. But whatever informed your beliefs, you need to go back and and first evaluate what are your money beliefs, right? And then if your money beliefs are not aligning with where you want to go and the wealth you want to build, then you have to change them. You have to change your perspective. Now, it becomes imperative, if we're going to build wealth, we're going to have to educate ourselves, because one of the barriers to us being wealthy is we simply just don't have the information. We simply don't have the knowledge. And I'm currently in a CFP class, Certified Financial Planner program, and I'm taking classes right now with the intention of being a certified financial planner. I want to do that because I want to not just be financial resource to entrepreneurs or people in business, but I want to be able to have a conversation about investments, whether that is to business owners or individuals. Because if we're going to grow wealth, then we need to be able to have the professional help um, to make plans, to build plans that are viable, that will actually lead to growing wealth. So I want to be able to have those conversations from an expert perspective. While I am exposed to the investment market a lot because of my work, I want to have the credentials in that industry as well. But this is the thing. So in my class, it's probably about 20 something students. There are three girls, three women, and those three women, two of us have a CPA background. One of them is already in financial services and financial investments. The rest of them are men. If you look at the financial services industry, when you look at investment banking, the stock market, how many women do we have in those fields? Very few. So part of the reason why we're not even growing our money is because we just don't know how. We are just simply not educated. And if we're going to build wealth as women, then we have to become intentional about educating ourselves on financial topics, whether that be budgeting or savings or whether it's learning about the stock market or other investment vehicles, other methods that allow our money to grow, whether it's tax shelters, and when necessary, bringing on the expertise, the professionals, aligning with those professionals, hiring the professionals to bring us the knowledge so that we can make good decisions that allow our money to grow. So first of all, education is our biggest barrier, and the only way to circumvent that is to educate ourselves. We need to normalize having conversations about money. So when we get together as girlfriends, we are not just talking about the makeup and the clothes and the who did what and whatever. How about we also add the conversations about money, about, hey, this is the stock I purchased last week and it's doing such and such. Or can we normalize that? And I'm not saying that those conversations have to be showing off about how much money you have, but we can certainly have educated conversations about what we can do and what we're doing, or even the things that have gone bust about money. So let's normalize that as girls. And when we have, whether it's a merry-go-round or an investment club, let's make sure that those investment clubs, that we are bringing in the knowledge and the experts so that we are not just circulating money, but we are really growing money. So education is important. Now, you're not going to master every way of growing money. So find two or three that work for you and work those. It's not about knowing everything. And even somebody like William Buffett says that, you know what I mean, find your horse, find one or two horses and ride those. You don't have to specialize. You don't have to be in everything. You could be a great entrepreneur, a great business person, and go open a private account with a Chase or with a Wells Fargo. Use their resources there to help you now invest your money, right? So you don't have to be all things. You can hire expertise. If you're not going to learn it, then certainly hire the expertise. Nevertheless, I would say having a level of information, educating yourself even on the basics is necessary so that you are able to have an informed conversation, so that you can ask educated questions, so that you can protect your money. Because there is a part of needing sometimes when we are not informed, our money can be misused, and we can be misinformed. So it's important to educate ourselves nevertheless. So growing money, building wealth is more than getting the right stock tip or getting the right stock or just getting into the property, buying real estate just at just the right time. It is that, but it's so much more. Really, it's an internal perspective. the adage that if you think you can, you can, and if you think you can't, you can't, is true. We have to start from the perspective of understanding the two things: that we are worthy to build wealth, because you're never going to pursue something that you don't think you're worthy of. And if you struggle with worth, as a woman, you may need to go fix the issues of why you're struggling with being worthy of money, being worthy of wealth, why you're self-sabotaging. Because this is what happens if you don't feel worthy of a certain level or certain income or a certain amount of money in the account or a certain amount of invested assets. If you don't feel worthy of that, you are going to self-sabotage. You will go blow that money, whether it's inherited, whether you married it, whether you was left as a settlement in your divorce, you will squander that because you internally you don't feel worthy. So if worth is an issue, you need to fix worth before you come back and really build wealth, right? Or you can do this both at the same time, but that's critical because there's an internal perspective, an internal environment that determines whether you can build wealth. There's a big part of wealth that is right place at the right time, moving with your gut. And guess what? You will not listen to your gut if you don't think you're worthy. Then there's also courage. You see, worthiness and knowing you're capable, and then finding the courage. You need to feel capable. You need to know that you're capable. You're capable of understanding financial topics. You're capable of budgeting your money. You're capable of savings. You're capable of these things. Know that intrinsically, because you have to see it to believe it. And because if you're going to understand financial topics, like right now, I'm in a space where I'm learning new stuff. Yes, I have a basic understanding, but with these classes that I'm taking, we're going deeper into these topics of investments, topics of the stock market, valuation of stocks, and all this stuff. Very interesting, but I have to study so that I can, show myself approved, right? So, but the first step in that is knowing that you're capable. Okay, you have to know that you're capable. You're capable of building great wealth. Know that, believe that. Hey, speak it to yourself, whatever you need to do for that to be your perspective, right? And then you have to have the courage, okay? Because you can know it intrinsically, but if you lack courage, you're going to have a problem. Courage to build a business. It takes courage to build a business. It takes courage to build a side hustle, and now the side hustle is ready for you to focus on it as a business, as the only thing, and it will take courage to leave your job. It will take courage to take your savings, to put it towards a business venture. It will take courage to take your savings and put it in the stock market. There are many times, there are many people who hold on to money. It's sitting in the savings account, growing nothing, but they're too afraid to put it in the stock market to grow. Okay, too afraid to put it in a private equity venture. You're going to need courage, because for you to make those big moves and make significant financial decisions, even the decision to buy a home and take on a significant mortgage requires courage. So those three things: knowing that you're worthy, knowing that you're capable, and then having the courage to take action, whether it's action on an idea, action on making a financial move, whatever the case may be. Those three things are going to have to work together. They're not tangible. They are the intangibles in wealth building. So now, the last thing I want to say about wealth building is I shared with you how men have the knowledge, right? For the most part, there's going to be far much more men who know about business, the business you're looking to get into, who know about investments, who know about the stock market, who know about growing wealth. There's going to be a lot more men who have this knowledge than women. Therefore, We need to recruit men in our journeys. In your journey as a woman to build wealth, recruit men. And whether that you're recruiting that man because you just want a second opinion, hey, I'm thinking of jumping into this stock, and you know somebody who is already very knowledgeable in that area, seeking that, hey, what are your thoughts? Seeking advice on, I'm looking to go into this business venture. What are your thoughts, and or what would you advise this journey? As a matter of fact, we need them. We need that call sponsorship. Part of it also, why we need to recruit men in our journeys is when we are building that business that needs to go to the next level, that needs that major capital infusion, you may need to recruit men to bring that major capital infusion. I know several of the women that I know who have gone on to build multi-million-dollar businesses, they have needed to raise capital. And guess who you're going to deal with when you're raising capital? You might be dealing with men who are in that investment banking, investment deal making, who are going to help you find the investors, or the investors themselves might be men. And so the people who have the knowledge, now think about if you want to take your business to, if you want to do an IPO, initial public offering, and you want to take your business to the stock market, which that is the number one way. Anybody who is a billionaire, majority of people, not everybody, but a big chunk of people who are billionaires build their wealth by taking their business to the stock market. Your investment bankers and the people who are going to facilitate those investment attorneys are going to be, many times they're going to be men. So we cannot do this without men. We need to recruit men in our journey, whether it's in a small scale or a bigger scale. One of the, as I'm going through this class, I had some questions I needed. There's some materials going through, and it was stumping me. And so I reached out to a friend. I know he's in the investment world, and I know these topics are second nature to him. So I reached out. I say, hey, I need help with such and such. Can you answer this for me? How do I do this? How do I use this financial calculator? So let's recruit men. Let's recruit men in this journey. They will be coming handy. They will come in handy. So let's not sit there in our little corner trying to build wealth by ourselves, and sometimes not knowing what we're doing. No, let's go get the guys and say, hey, come on and help us along. So what I'm trying to show you here is that it's going to take more than getting the right. Sometimes we think somebody got lucky, or they got the right stock tip, or they got in at the right time. But part of getting in at the right time might have meant that they got the gut feeling, or they got the information from a friend. They had the courage to act on it, and they had the resources because they already had savings. Do you see? So meaning that it's much more than getting the right stock tip, right? That actually will get you that appreciation. It's much more than just knowing having the right vehicle that will allow you to ride the wealth wave. It's a much more complex conversation, and that is what I'm trying to demonstrate today. That wealth building is multifaceted. It's not a one-way street. It's multifaceted, and the first step is becoming wealth conscious, and then deciding that this is something you want to do for yourself, for your future generation, for your children, for your daughters, for your sons, that this is something that it's a journey that you want to take, and then embark on that journey. There's a lot more I can say about this topic, but I wanted to present a unique perspective from what maybe is usually presented about wealth. And I hope this conversation has been a blessing to you. I hope it made you, it triggered thought. I hope it challenges you, and that it makes you start a journey. Or if you're already on a journey, a wealth building journey, I hope that it encourages you to keep up on that journey. So I wish you a wonderful day. And if you are in the Eastern Hemisphere and it is night time, I wish you a good night. If you're here in the Western Hemisphere, have a fantastic day. I'm going to go on and have a great day. As a matter of fact, on this birthday, I have a meeting later today with a financial advisor, and as I'm looking to have a conversation about my money. All right. So that's what I'm doing on my 45th birthday. As you can see, I am not just talking about this. I am doing something about it. And so, and if you've never really had a conversation about your money, maybe it's time to have a conversation about money. And most banks have investment advisors, financial advisors that are free. So maybe that's a place to start. Make an appointment and have a conversation. So, as of one last thing, my work entails being a financial resource to business owners. And so, if you're there and you're a business owner and you're looking for somebody to come alongside you to be a financial resource, and whether it's providing services, financial services, or accounting services to you, but on top of that, having conversations that allow you, that inform you and help you make good decisions, make good financial strategic decisions for your business, then you're welcome to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at consult to thrive, consult, the number 2, the word thrive.us. Fantastic. Alrighty. Have a great day. Thank you.